It started with a whisper on the outer rim of the galaxy, one of those reports High Command usually ignores. A minor skirmish. A lone human operative spotted. No backup, no weapon in sight. Just a ragged figure walking across the frostbitten tundras of Elkaris for like death on 2 feet. The Imperial Patrol thought they were lucky. They weren't. They thought they'd caught a straggler. Just another defeated human left behind after the Earth Confederacy fractured. She was filthy, half-starved, barely standing. Her eyes were hollow, her movements sluggish. No resistance when they chained her. No words when they stripped her of her gear. Just silence. Cold, stinging silence. The Empire logged her as Prisoner 0439H, another forgettable number, in a war they believed they had already won. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor, because this woman, this nameless ghost they dragged to the snow and threw into a cell, wasn't a deserter. She wasn't lost. She was waiting. And her name was Baba Yaga. Not a code name, not a nickname, a warning. You see, in human cultures, Baba Yaga is a folk tale, a monster, the witch in the woods that eats the unworthy, hunts the proud, and dances on bones. Most Imperials had never heard the name. Those who did laughed at it. Human superstition, they said. But this Baba Yaga wasn't a myth. She was a Black Ops operative forged in the last secret war Earth never admitted happened. She dismantled colonies with nothing but her voice and a scalpel. Left fleets shattered without ever firing a shot. She had a dossier so classified, even Earth's High Command denied her existence. And now she was in Imperial custody, bound, muzzled, silent, like a god waiting to be blasphemed. The facility that held her was standard grade, a maximum security black site drilled into the side of a glacier. No sunlight, no communication, just steel, shadow, and arrogance. Her cell was bare. The guards? Arrogant. Her food? Slop. They thought discomfort would break her. But Baba Yaga had trained in zero-gravity ice caverns where gravity collapsed and oxygen rationed itself to those who earned breath. She had buried comrades under ice without time to mourn. She had bled earth blue in 100 nameless places. They couldn't break her, because she wasn't there to be broken. By the second week, the interrogators grew frustrated. She hadn't spoken a single word. One screamed in her face until his voice cracked. Another tried to play the good guard, offering coffee and soft lighting. Still nothing, not even a blink. Then they brought in Commander Varnak, the Imperial psychological expert who prided himself on breaking species, not just soldiers. He entered her cell wearing ceremonial black, flanked by drones that broadcast his voice at multiple frequencies. "Tell me your name," he said. Silence. He paced in front of her, circling her bound form like a vulture. "You know we've won, yes? Earth's forces are scattered. Your colonies have either surrendered or been vaporized. Your kind has returned to myths and dust." Her eyes didn't even flicker, so he tried one last push. He tapped a hologram into the air. It showed a human child, curly-haired, maybe 7 years old, crying out for their mother before an Imperial mech stomped out to feed. "Pathetic," he sneered. "Is this what you fight for? Weaklings who bleed at the sight of steel." She looked at him. Just once. That was the last moment Varnak ever felt safe. That night, the power in her cell block flickered. Then it failed. Cameras glitched into static. Sensors froze. Guards screamed through static-filled comms. When power returned, Varnak was dead. No, worse than dead. His body was bent backward at the spine, arms locked in a position of surrender, eyes removed and arranged on the floor in the shape of Earth's old war sigil, a broken ring wrapped around a star. The cell was still locked from the outside. She was still there, sitting, silent, but in her lap, where her hands had once been bound, Varnak's heart, still beating. Panic hit the facility like a virus. Protocols failed. Morale collapsed. Some guards refused to work near her sector. Others requested transfers off-world. One tried to shoot her through the bars. His rifle jammed. He died of a stroke 3 hours later, foam dripping from his lips and blood seeping from his ears. No one touched her after that. The base commander begged for off-world relocation. The request was denied. Instead, High Command ordered her moved to a dreadnought. "We'll transport her to the Citadel," they said. "Let the Corps interrogators try their hand." They wrapped her in quantum chains, suspended her in a no-gravity cube. 3 full escort ships followed the dreadnought, all bristling with anti-personnel tech. And still, the officers aboard the ship couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't transporting a prisoner. They were chaperoning a war crime waiting to be unleashed. But none of them said it, not out loud, not until they found the first dead crewman, then the second, then the engineering deck stopped responding, then the cameras went blank. When the Citadel hailed the dreadnought, all they got was a single transmission, 2 words, spoken in perfect, unbroken Terran. "She's loose." There's a moment just before catastrophe strikes, a breath, a beat, when silence becomes more terrifying than any explosion. That moment came when the dreadnought Virex Eternal stopped responding. Not slowly, not with a warning. 1 second. The crew was checking in with Imperial Command. The next, nothing. No ping. No pulse. Just empty space in a vessel that drifted dead and dark into the void like a ghost ship. The Empire called it a system malfunction, a comms failure, a minor delay. It wasn't. They sent a salvage team. What they found shattered the illusion of control the Galactic Empire had spent centuries building. The Virex Eternal had been sliced open from the inside, not blown apart, not bombed, sliced, clean, surgical, precise. Not a single external hull breach. But entire decks had been hollowed out like fruit, their inhabitants turned into mangled art pieces. Strapped to walls, posed like statues, some with faces frozen in laughter. Not horror, laughter. The kind you find just before madness takes over. One room, the command deck, was filled with oxygen, lights intact. In the center, the captain's chair remained untouched. A single phrase had been burned into the steel floor beneath it, in a language older than the Empire itself. "You took me, now I take you." Baba Yaga was gone, loose, free, and the galaxy would never sleep again. Within hours, the whisper started. A base in Sector R, 91 lost contact. Then a science station in the Andronic Belt. Then a frontier listening post near the wormhole gates sent a distress beacon that cut off halfway through someone screaming the word, which... Panic rippled through the middle ranks. But the upper command? They scoffed. "She's one woman," Grand Marshal Karath said before a fleet of governors. "We are the Galactic Empire. What could one relic of a dead world possibly do?" The answer came 3 days later. His palace exploded during a private banquet, killing 32 nobles and 6 governors. No bomb signature. No intruder logs. No trace of breach. Only a dessert cart rolled in minutes before the blast, covered in frost. Now, finally, they took her seriously. The intelligence division dug into Earth's most buried archives. They decrypted human war files once dismissed as disinformation. They found the legends, the myth of Baba Yaga. The story said she once infiltrated an alien government by replacing their queen for 6 months, without anyone knowing. That she'd ended 2 planetary uprisings by whispering into the wrong ears and letting paranoia devour the rest. That she killed a species of mind-reading tacticians by learning their language overnight and convincing them she was already inside their thoughts. Records said she had no known weaknesses, no known family, no past, just missions. And every mission had the same result. Silence. Now, silence fell again, and again, and again. 17 facilities vanished within a solar cycle. Power lines went dead, atmospheres vented. Command centers were found with every crew member brain dead. No wounds, just wide eyes and frozen expressions. On a mining moon, a message had been carved into the rock with a plasma cutter. She remembers. Another station found its fleet data scrubbed. Dozens of ships reassigned and fired on each other in orbit, thinking the others had been compromised. No hacker could be traced. Then they found the server room. Every console had been coated in human blood. None of the victims were missing any. Soon, fear became a virus. Fleet captains refused to dock. Crews demanded extra hazard pay just to stand guard. Entire battalions resigned rather than be transferred to haunted sectors. And those who stayed? They started to see things. Reports came in of shadows in the halls. Whispers through ship intercoms no one activated. A woman, hair white as snow, skin pale, walking barefoot down corridors that should have been empty. A hallucination, they said, until she started leaving things behind. A lock of hair on a pillow. A cracked helmet with the crewman's name carved inside. A note in blood. You're breathing borrowed time. The Empire ordered elite kill teams to hunt her. 12 went in. 2 came back. Both were missing tongues. One had aged 30 years in 3 days. The other laughed until he bit off his own fingers and died from shock. No fingerprints. No voice logs. No trace. Except one thing. The camera feed from one of the failed capture zones. For 2 seconds, a shadow moved across the frame. Then it stopped and stared directly into the lens. Her face. Calm. Unblinking. Smiling. As if the game had just begun. The Emperors gathered in emergency session. A shadow war, they called it. A campaign of terror. But the truth? They had captured a soldier. And in doing so, they'd unleashed a nightmare older than most of their own thrones. She was no longer hunting for escape. She was teaching them a lesson, that for every child crushed under Imperial boots, for every Earth colony sterilized in the name of order, for every human who whispered, "Don't let them take you alive," before their final breath, there was a reckoning, and her name was Baba Yaga. You can only ignore the knocking on the door for so long, until you realize it's coming from inside the throne room. That was the moment the Galactic Empire began to truly understand what it had done. They hadn't captured a prisoner. They'd invited extinction aboard their own ship. It started with whispers among the archivists. Hidden deep beneath the throne world of Arnaxis Prime, in a classified databank only accessed for ancient war protocols, a low-level analyst found a match. He wasn't even looking for her, just reviewing lost Terran operatives. But then her face came up, eyes like polished obsidian, hair like smoke and ash. The file was tagged. Alibaba Yaga // class Omega entity / do not pursue. The analyst didn't sleep after that. He ran. He told no one. He defected. Even his suicide note ended in panic. You fools didn't catch a ghost. You caught the ghost. She's not dead. She's patient. By the time the news reached Central Command, it was too late. Baba Yaga was no longer hiding. She was broadcasting. On a hijacked Imperial frequency, she sent her first message in 93 cycles. No encryption. No distortion. Just her voice, clear, calm, surgical. You think I'm running? No. I'm walking. Toward you. Every step I take is one of your stars turning cold. The Empire tried to jam it. Didn't matter. She burned a message into the atmosphere of a moon, using low-orbit plasma bombardment to etch her words into the sky. Millions watched it like a nightmare stitched across heaven. You took me. Now I take everything. Admiral Hadronox of the 7th Dread Armada, known as the Butcher of Dalinar, was the first to take initiative. He declared open war on Baba Yaga. All this fear, he sneered during a press address, over a human woman with too many ghost stories and not enough bullets. I'll kill her with my hands. He was dead 3 hours later. No army. No battle. His flagship, Dominion Wrought, fell from orbit into the red ocean of Tarno 6. Recovered logs showed the entire bridge crew walking into space, one by one, without suits. No alarms. No orders. Just silence. The last camera feed showed someone had written on the Admiral's view screen in blood, "You first." Now the myth spread like wildfire, but it wasn't just among humans anymore. The Empire's slaves, servants, and even its lesser protectorates began passing the name like a forbidden prayer. Rebellion cells called her sign. Mercenary groups refused Imperial credits if they heard even a rumor of her involvement. Even pirates, scavengers without allegiance, began posting signs on their ships. "We do not host Imperials. We do not hunt the witch." One crew ignored that advice. They found their airlock sealed. Their oxygen turned to cyanide. Their corpses positioned in a circle, hands outstretched, eyes staring upward in reverence. The ship was renamed in local legends, Baba's Halo. Still, the Empire pressed on. Desperation turned to cruelty. They began arresting humans by the thousands, any with even the remotest connection to Earth's military past. Torture, propaganda, executions. They televised one, a captured ex-soldier, weak, shackled, pleading, then screaming. They thought it would break her silence. Instead, it summoned her wrath. Exactly 8 minutes after the soldier's execution was aired, 15 Imperial worlds lost all power. No warning, no trace. Then came the screams, flooding comm channels across sectors, armories self-detonating, drone swarms turning on their owners, holograms flickering with a woman's face on every display. She never spoke. She didn't need to. The Empire now knew her name, and they spoke it in fear. Baba Yaga, the Empress of Varnaxis, called an emergency conclave inside the throne's citadel, built in orbit and protected by 30 plasma walls and 2 suns. She screamed for solutions. What is she? The Empress demanded. How does a single woman bring our empire to its knees? No one answered, but one old strategist, retired for decades, slowly stood, his eyes dimmed by age, his voice like sandpaper on steel. I met her, he whispered, long ago, on Earth before the fall. She walked into a war zone alone. 40 men pointed guns. She walked out with none behind her. The Empress scoffed. You're saying she's invincible? No, he replied. I'm saying she's unrelenting. Outside the palace, something began to fall from orbit. At first, the Empire thought it was debris, but when it landed gently without impact, they found a child's doll. Old, Earth-made, missing one eye. Wrapped around its body was a strip of human skin. On it, burned in ultraviolet laser etching, were 6 words. I'm not done, not even close. She had become more than a legend. She was a reckoning with a pulse. No longer just fighting the Empire, but infecting it. Every world she touched became colder. Every system she passed through lost light. Every officer who tried to trace her vanished. And those she spared lived only long enough to deliver a message. Tell them Baba Yaga remembers. When a god takes vengeance, you expect thunder, fire, cataclysm. But when Baba Yaga struck, it wasn't thunder that followed. It was silence. Terrifying, unnatural silence. The kind that settles before the blood hits the floor. Because retribution wasn't rage, it was a ritual. And she was its high priestess. The first to fall was Narration Station, a massive orbital command center that once coordinated 42 Imperial sectors. It took 312 years to construct. It fell in 17 minutes. No weapons fired. No outside breach. Just failure. Lights died. Oxygen vanished. Turrets turned inward. When backup arrived, every officer and technician had been lined up in their own command hall, standing, eyes open, pulses gone. Each of them had a word etched across their foreheads in Terran script. Dead. Baba Yaga didn't strike like an army. She struck like a memory, an echo that killed you before you even knew you'd heard it. On the Imperial border world Calcerin V, civilians awoke to every planetary speaker, playing an old Terran lullaby, one from a culture long extinct, almost forgotten. No words, just melody. At first, it felt haunting. Then they found the guards, hung upside down from trees, drained of blood, heads twisted to stare at the sun. Their weapons melted into slag. Carved into the sky with ion fire was a question. Did you think I'd forget your children? In Sector 19, a shipyard constructing 3 new super dreadnoughts received a transmission from deep space. It appeared to be a surrender signal from Earth's remnants. The Admiral ordered the comms team to open the channel. Only static. Then a voice. Soft, sharp, calm. Wrong frequency. Right consequence. Seconds later, the shipyard's reactors overloaded, perfectly synchronized across dozens of floors. Not a single ship escaped. Every crew member's personal logs have been replaced with one file, a photo of a Terran child holding a burned Imperial helmet, smiling. That photo became banned. Anyone caught viewing it was arrested. It didn't matter. It had already spread. The message was no longer whispered. It was roaring through every communications line in the galaxy. Governors began stepping down. Military units abandoned posts. Trade alliances collapsed. And the survivors? They began to speak of her not as a woman, but as a curse. A living consequence the Empire could neither kill nor ignore. Desperate, the Empire turned to science. If they could not find her, they would predict her, track her DNA, model her movements. They brought in psychic tacticians, alien memory readers, and artificial intelligences bred in time-lock cores. Each one failed. Horrifically, one AI, Project Mindcage, lasted longer than most. It constructed a predictive map of her movements, using billions of data points and probability branches. Then it shut itself off. Final system message. Error. I saw her looking at me. But Baba Yaga was more than surgical strikes and poetic justice. She was a mirror held up to the Empire's soul, and what it reflected was rot. On Ornithor, she hijacked the largest galactic broadcast network and revealed hours of unfiltered war footage, executions, civilian bombings. Children pulled from rubble while Imperial officials sipped wine. Footage the Empire swore didn't exist. Then she appeared on the screen. Just her eyes. Calm. Unforgiving. You burn truth to light your lies. I'll burn your stars instead. Within days, uprisings erupted on 20 worlds. One admiral attempted diplomacy. Admiral Cyril Vorn, one of the last noble-born officers still commanding a loyal fleet, sent a message directly to her last known coordinates. We admit our crimes. Let us make peace. We offer terms. Sanctuary. Forgiveness. Her reply was as swift as it was cold. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking if you prefer ash or vacuum. The Admiral's ship was found drifting 6 hours later. The only thing left on the bridge was a single word painted on the glass in crimson. Both. The Empress, now fully isolated behind 1,000 walls of guards and drones, issued one final, desperate decree. Find her. Kill her. Erase her from every system. Spare no cost. But her voice trembled, because even behind all that steel and protocol, she could feel it. The walls were closing in, not from armies, from one woman, one name, Baba Yaga. And then it stopped. For 7 days, there was silence. No attacks, no signals, no deaths. Some believed it was over. Others knew better. The eye of the storm is always calm. Then, on the 8th day, every Imperial-controlled planet received the same message. No encryption, just coordinates. Coordinates that pointed to Varnaxis Prime, the heart of the Empire, her final destination. She was done dancing in the shadows. She was walking into the fire now, and she intended to drag the entire Empire with her. It wasn't an invasion fleet. It wasn't an armada. It wasn't an army. It was one woman, one walking extinction event, and she had arrived at the gates of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy, not with blasters, not with demands, with a promise. The coordinates she sent pointed directly to Varnaxis Prime, the throne world of the Empire, surrounded by 20 defense moons, 3 suns, and a planetary shield said to be impenetrable by entire civilizations. That was the point. She didn't come to break the gates. She came to prove walls meant nothing to those already inside. At first, the Empire dismissed it. A bluff, they claimed, a psychological game. The Empress herself, clad in gold-threaded armor, appeared on every screen across the starnet, eyes narrow and lips pressed into royal defiance. We do not fear myths. The Empire fears nothing. This Baba Yaga is a ghost, and ghosts vanish beneath the sun. The transmission ended. 6 seconds later, every single light on Varnaxis Prime flickered, then died. Every backup system failed. Communications crashed. Ships in orbit turned inwards, targeting their own. And in the dead center of the throne's citadel, the emergency sirens, never once used in 900 years, howled into life. The Empress was no longer giving speeches. She was screaming orders. Something moved through the halls. Not fast, Not loud. Just there, between one blink and the next. Cameras caught nothing. But one by one, guards vanished from their posts. High-ranking officers were found frozen in their command chairs, veins filled with some kind of clear gel, mouths open mid-command. The Empire's greatest minds, huddled in the war chamber, argued theories. Neural weaponry, advanced cloaking nanotech. None of them noticed the air growing cold. None of them heard the footsteps behind them. Not until they saw the message appear across every terminal, written in Earth-standard font. Your debt is now due. Within minutes, the palace became a tomb. Turrets turned inwards. Drones powered down. Automatic doors refused to close. Panic gripped even the most loyal guards as they realized the truth. She wasn't breaking in. She'd already been here. For weeks, maybe months. Preparing, studying, waiting. Every food shipment, every cargo crate, every visiting diplomat. Any of them could have been her. Or worse, she didn't need any of them. She simply arrived when fear was loud enough to open the door. In the Empress's panic chamber, buried beneath 300 meters of tungsten and plasma-forged alloy, her hands trembled as she watched her ministers die one by one on separate monitors. No blood, just silence. Then one feed cracked with static, and a face leaned in. Not angry, not wild, calm, pale, focused. Baba Yaga. She spoke only 4 words. You should have listened. The chamber shook, not from outside. From within, the walls pulsed. The lights burned out. Even time seemed to stretch, every second too long, every breath too thin. Then all the screens went black. And far above, the people of Arnaxis Prime stared skyward as their suns dimmed. Not from orbit, but from synchronized satellite shields she had turned against them. An eclipse of vengeance. Every screen, every broadcast, every sensor now displayed the same image. A Terran child, burned, bloodied, clutching their mother's hand, looking up at an Imperial dreadnought with empty eyes. And underneath, a simple phrase. For every name you erased, I became 10 more. Across the galaxy, the collapse began, not with fire, with surrender. Entire sectors declared independence overnight. Officers threw down their insignias and fled. Ships refused to respond to Central Command. Colonies that had once feared the wrath of the Empire now openly broadcast defiance, and in their hearts, whispered one name with reverence and warning, Baba Yaga. But what happened to the Empress? That's where the records end. No body was found, no remains, just her golden crown, floating in her private sanctuary, drenched in crimson, with a lock of gray hair wrapped around its base. No one claimed responsibility. No one needed to. Everyone knew she'd made good on her promise. She'd walked into the storm and silenced it. They built no statues for her, no medals, no monuments, because Baba Yaga never wanted praise. She wanted balance. And when it was done, when the Empire had no blood left to bleed, she vanished like smoke in a sunbeam. Some say she returned to Earth, or what's left of it. Others say she wanders the stars still, listening for the next empire arrogant enough to forget that even ghosts have teeth. But the truth is you don't find Baba Yaga. She finds you when your crimes echo louder than your mercy, when your war is built on the bones of the innocent. She comes, quiet, cold, unstoppable, not to conquer, to remind that even galaxies burn when they steal from the wrong soul.